welcome to this new video. This video is a prequel to a new lens that's been released by Canon, the Canon RF 100-500mm F4.5-7.1L IS USM lens. So let's just get into the specs of this and then I'll give you my thoughts from a wildlife and sports photographer if I think this lens is any good. So the focal range is 100 to 500mm focal length, 5 stops of image stabilization, which is great. That's 1 stop better than the 100 to 400 Mark II EF-L lens. Super UD elements, dual nano USM motor, heat shielded coating and air sear coatings, and lens control ring, which that means you can stop the lens from creeping when you hold it vertically, and also allow you to specify a certain point on the zoom range and so it won't move, and you can have it quite soft to move or quite hard to move depending on how much pressure you put on the ring. So that's something that's actually in the EF lens, the 100 to 400, and it's a good feature. So the angle of view you're going to get is approximately 20 degrees to 4 degrees. Lens construction is 20 elements in 14 groups. The diaphragm blades for the aperture is 9. Minimum aperture is f32. At 100mm, you can go to f54 at 500mm, which is very interesting. Closest focusing distance is 0.9. That's basically and at 100mm it's 1.2. As far as I'm aware, the 100 to 400 can focus from 98 centimeters at 400mm. So I don't think it's quite as good as the 100 to 400 Mark II EF lens at close focusing. But obviously it's an extra 100mm, so maybe that's slightly better. Maximum magnification is 0.33. Distance information, yes. Image stabilizer is 5 stops as said, so it's 1 stop improvement. The autofocus acquitator is dual nano USM. Dust moisture resistance, yes. The filter diameter is 77mm, so it stays the same as the 100 to 400 Mark II L lens EF as well. Lens hood ET83F. You get a lens pouch with it, lens dust cap, extended capability. That's pretty much standard with most L lenses, and obviously you can get the extenders to attach to this as well. Focal length will range 420mm to 700mm with the 1.4, and obviously 2 times will make it 1000mm. So so 600mm to 1000mm on the 2 times extender, and obviously you've got 5 stops of image stabilization. If you couple this with the R5 and R6, you're going to have 9 stops of image stabilization, because you get 4 stops with the IBIS, the in-body stabilization, and it's priced at £2,899.99. That's about £1,000 more expensive than the 100 to 400 Mark II L EF lens, because that's around £1,800 at present in the UK, and this is due to be released on the 27th of August 2020. So in about a week's time this will be available to purchase from Amazon's website. Obviously it's quite expensive. So let's have a little look at the picture that we've got here. So it's 3 meters to infinity, which is the same as the 100 to 400 Mark II L lens. As I've said, you've got a smooth and tight ring there to make the zoom ring tight or smooth. Image stabilizer on and off button. You've got your stabilizer modes 1, 2 and 3. So pretty much identical in most respects to the 100 to 400 Mark II L IS USM Mark II, but that is F4.5 to 5.6, and this is F4.5 to 7.1L. Obviously, in the previous video where I talked about the new 600mm and 800mm STM F11 lenses, where I said they were quite dark, this is a significant improvement on those lenses, and to be honest, in my opinion, this is a superior lens in terms of being able to take pictures in real world environments. The sticking point I've got here is that F7.1. It seems awfully dark to me, considering that the primes could be damn sight better than F11. Granted, it's probably superior quality to those lenses. Again, it's 7.1 seems awfully dark. You know, when you consider that you can get the 100 to 600 contemporary sport, the Tamron G2, sorry, that's at 6.3, which is a better aperture at 600mm, and this is a darker aperture at 7.1. Granted, it's 77mm filter thread, which is smaller. I believe the Tamron and Sigma Contemporary is 95mm filter thread, which means it's a bigger lens in terms of width wise at the front element. The Sport is 105mm, which is even bigger still. Considering the 100 to 400 at 5.6, I'm sure they could have made some improvements with the elements to keep it at 5.6 and beat the Sigma and Tamron lenses. But you know, for the price, it's very expensive. You know, you're talking about £100 shy of £3,000 for a lens. Don't forget, you're going to fork out about £4,000 for the camera bodies as well. It's a lot of money. You know, considering you can buy the 100 to 400 Mark II L lens for £1,800, and then you could stick an extender on it, the 1.4, and you get an aperture of f8. Granted, it's darker than 7.1, and you're getting 560mm for a lot less money. You're maybe talking with the extender priced in about £2,500, and this lens is £100 shy of £3,000, and you've still got to spend the money for the extender if you want the extender to put it on this as well. I think it's really expensive for the money. Obviously, it's a good lens. Quality wise, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be certainly on par with the 100 to 400 Mark II L lens, which I think is an absolutely sharp lens as hell. But you can always adapt that onto the RF camera bodies if you want to. I think it's going to be good for wildlife sports photography if you've got a good sunny day. As I said in a previous video where I've looked at the you know, the 600 and 800 prime f11 lenses, where I said I went out to a Royal Armouries jousting event where knights were on horses, you know, jousting against each other and trying to knock each other off the horses. I said in that video, in an overcast day, that I was using the 70 to 200 2.8 lens with the 1.4 extender, and I found it too dark because it was heavily overcast, and I was getting a shutter speed of 200th of a second when I was trying to take pictures at around the 500mm zoom range, because I had a crop sensor camera. I think it was the 80D I was using at the time. I was getting blurry shots, and you may experience the same scenario with this lens, because f7.1 is still a dark aperture. Granted, it's certainly significantly better than the two primes they've brought out for the RF range, which is f11. I think if you were to stick it at 400mm, you'll probably be better off in terms of the dark aperture. It's just disappointing that Canon's brought this lens out. I was really excited to hear about the 100 to 500 lens coming out finally, because there was a rumour that they were going to bring out a 200 to 600. They had a patent for that lens, and it was patented in Japan, and we was hoping they were going to release that lens to compete with the Sigma's 150 to 600 lenses and the Tamrons as well. But that lens never came to formulation and never got released. So obviously they've released this as an alternative to that, 100 to 500 millimeter. I suspect the reason they've not gone for 6.3 is because maybe Tamron and Sigma have patented their lenses already at that aperture range at 6.3. But I think they could have come out with an F6 possibly. Maybe a 200 to 500 lens, which would have been better. It's up to you to make your mind up what you think of this, but I think in low light situations you're going to struggle to take pictures with this lens at 7.1, and it's unlikely that any extenders will work. It's possible the mirrorless system might be able to handle it a bit better than the SLRs can, and they may have worked something into the algorithms to allow a 1.4 extender to work, even at extending it beyond 7.1, which I suspect it'd be something like 8.3 once you've put the extender on, something like that. So my take is, I'm not sure about the lens. It's expensive, and I think there are other options out there. For the price, you could get yourself a prime lens. So it's really up to you to decide what you want, but you know, if I had $3,000 to spend, I'd probably rather go for something like a 2.8 or an F4. Say, you know, if I could get one possibly second hand or used, maybe a 400 millimeter, or even an old Mark 1 500 millimeter F4 lens. You can probably pick one of those up for about $2,500 second hand, but they're more than usable. Even don't be scared about buying second hand. You can always get yourself a good bargain. And for $2,500, I think you could get a Mark 1 500mm f4 prime lens. Granted, it's a lot bigger than this, but it may be better for you if you're wanting to do sports or wildlife photography. But it depends if the zoom range is really important. But you could always pick up the 100 to 400 Mark II EF lens and adapt it to your RF lenses as well. And even great, you can even get that on grey import for maybe £1,400. That's how much I paid for mine. Anyway, I hope you found this video informative. Let me know in the comments what you think. I just think it's really expensive at the moment for the price. And it's the aperture, it's the sticking point for me. 7.1 is a dark aperture at 500mm. If the Sigmas and the Tamrons can do 600mm at 6.3, I don't see why Canon couldn't have at least come up with a 6.3 lens. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a nice day. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these videos, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.